Hey everybody, thanks a lot for coming back to Free Run Speed. This is Dave Jewell. I'm going to do a review on a brand new shoe from New Balance called the Beacon. It's brand new in the line. It's not replacing anything. And let's get started. All right, this isn't the first review of the Beacon. There are a number of people out there talking about it. My goal is not to be the first one on YouTube talking about a shoe. I really want to give it a test run. So this shoe has roughly 115 miles on it, somewhere around there. First run, as always, was a 10 plus mile run. Every running shoe I get, first time I run in it is over 10 miles. Today I did 14 miles in the shoe on trails, which is why it's so dirty. But anyway, there's probably four or five runs, I think, that are over 10 miles and a whole bunch of 6 and 8 mile runs in it. I said in an earlier video that I believe the brands are addressing the phenomenon that is Hoka, and they're doing it in their own way, which is, it's about time. I think it took them a number of years to figure it out, and they're at a point now where they're using their own imagination, come up with their own magic shoes, if you will. And I think the Beacon is one of those new shoes that are out there doing that. Let's talk a little bit about some of the competition. So there have been some folks that are doing reviews that are comparing this to a few different shoes, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that and then give you a little bit of opinion on where I think it sits. The first shoe I saw it compared to was the Epic React, and quite frankly, I don't get that. Now, what I will say is that I believe the Epic React from Nike is also an engineered answer to what Hoka provides the runner. So in that sense, I think you could say it's similar to the Epic React, but otherwise they're completely different shoes. The next shoe I've seen it compared to is the Hoka Clifton 1. And this is the Clifton 2, so understand that I know that this is the Clifton 2. That Clifton 1 is a super unique shoe. When it came out, man, did it take the running world by storm. The hardest thing in running shoes is to replicate that. And Hoka has not replicated that with the Clifton 2, didn't do it with the 3, the 4, or the 5. The Clifton 1 is still the standard by which all other Cliftons are measured. The Beacon is similar. So it has some of the things that the Clifton has, but in total feel, it's still going to be different. The shoe I think the Beacon is closest to is the Kinvara. And there's a couple reasons why. One, they're about the same weight. Kinvara is in at 7.6 ounces. The Beacon is in at 7.9 ounces. So it's pretty close. The Kinvara is an injected EVA. Latest Kinvaras, this one and the current version, have an Everrun top layer, where the Beacon is an injected fresh foam. So injected midsoles give you a unique feel, and these two shoes feel awfully darn close to each other in terms of overall performance. So I'm going to say that the Beacon is closer to a Kinvara. I should add, the Clifton originally, the original Clifton was a Hoka design, so had all the aspects of a Hoka with the rocker midsole, with the sidewalls that roll up, you know, the general Hoka design, but it was really set to go after the Kinvara. So there is some semblance of features that the Beacon has that the Clifton has. So if you really want to know, it's somewhere in between these two shoes. It's somewhere in between the Kinvara and the original Clifton 1. Not exactly a Kinvara, not exactly a Clifton 1, but somewhere in between. So like I said, this is an injected fresh foam. Couple things. When you do an injection process, there's a skin that is left on to the outside of the shoe. That skin also helps in the durability. So what you'll see is only very minimal rubber pods under the ball of the foot and also at the heel. Other than that, you're running on the injected foam itself. But as you can see, even with 100 plus miles in it, it's super durable. There's some slight wear up here in the toe, but that's to be expected because that's super high abrasion, lots of pressure going on up there. Otherwise, not much wear at all. So that's the first thing. All right, the midsole. The heel on the Beacon is 26 millimeters. The forefoot is 20 millimeters. Back to those two shoes, the Kinvara is a 4 millimeter offset. The Clifton is 5 millimeter. This one being 6 millimeter. More than likely, you're not going to be able to tell the difference unless you really land at your heel and roll off into the forefoot. You will not tell the difference between the Clifton, the Kinvara and the Beacon. They're going to feel real similar. It's a 2 millimeter difference. If you're running midfoot up onto your forefoot, you will not notice that. So that's the first thing. The sculpting that you see on here, on the sidewall, that's to help provide extra cushioning. They sculpt that out to make sure that midsole gives way. And it does. It's a very soft ride. A little bit more difficult to see, but your foot sits inside this rail. All the way through the forefoot, you're sitting in the rail. The exact same type of construction that the Clifton has. You're inside the rail. Where the Beacon and the Clifton deviate, the Clifton is set, it has a rocker built into it, and it's set to roll forward. There's very little flex in this Clifton. And this thing is the Clifton 2, so it's got some miles in it, which means it's more flexible than when it was new, but still it doesn't flex. The Beacon, on the other hand, does flex. So that's a major difference between the Clifton and the Beacon. You've got the guide rails. Sorry, guide rails is a Brooks term. But you have these rails up here where your foot sits inside them, similar to the Clifton, but this shoe flexes, the Clifton doesn't. Should note, Kinvara flexes. So that's again why the Beacon and Kinvara are very similar. You've got some flex in the Kinvara, you got some flex in the Beacon. The upper is a fairly minimal one-piece nip type construction. There's no overlays. It's simply the upper wrapped around your foot. Flat laces, pretty standard tongue. Sock liner, pretty standard EVA sock liner. It's going to be super durable. Going to hold up to a lot of running. You can see that there is a pretty sizable arch in the sock liner, but once in the shoe and foot in the shoe, there's not much arch. So me personally, I'd prefer a little bit higher, more substantial arch in this shoe, but that's my personal preference. I think for the majority of runners, this design is actually a better design. So I think you'll be super comfortable in the fit, specifically under your foot. There won't be any noticeable arch that digs into your foot. So I think that's a good thing. Overall, I think the fit is going to be pretty generous and pretty accommodating for a lot of different types of feet. If you've watched a few of my videos, my foot is not normal. It's a little bit skinnier, a little bit lower. You can see that I pull those laces pretty tight. But there's room to open those laces up too. So if you have a high instep, no problem. You'll be able to fit into the shoe. The no overlays, all of that just adds to that. All right, the ride. It's dead quiet. I was actually running with a buddy. We were running on cement. We both had the shoes on. He was running 24 hours. I was running 6 miles with him. And we both had the shoe on, and we both made comments just on how dead quiet the shoes were. Your foot lands and rolls right through it. There's no slapping sound, nothing like that. It's totally dead quiet sound. It's soft, but it's not mushy soft, I think is the best way I can explain it. And that's because it's injected. So you're gonna get the super softness from the outsole because there's no rubber on it. And so you're running on EVA. That's what makes it so quiet. But because it's injected, it's not squishy soft. There's a rebound to the injection process. Just like the Kinvara is soft, but it's not mushy soft. So I think that's a very big plus for this. All right, New Balance Beacon, $120. I think it's worth all that $120. I think if you've been running in Kinvara and don't like the new versions of it, if you've been looking for a replacement to that original Clifton, this isn't the exact same. So don't take it that this is the exact, but there are some aspects of that Clifton that you liked, and I'm not sure 100% what they were, but you might find it in this shoe. Definitely, if you're disenchanted with latest Kinvaras, Beacon is a good alternative. By far, it's a really good alternative. It's a fun shoe to run in. You're gonna like running in it. It's gonna be a dead quiet feel. It's super lightweight. 7.9 ounces is light. You put that on, and it feels. It just feels lighter than probably what you're running in today. Even if your shoe is 8 ounces, your shoe is 8 ounces with overlays on it and a lot of restrictions. This is 7.9 ounces with no restrictions at all. So it's going to feel different, and I think you're going to notice it. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for a new shoe, something that is an alternative to what you're running in right now, that is a little bit lighter, a little bit freer to run in, maybe you don't see things on the market that you like right now. Try the Beacon out. You'll be happy with it. This is Dave Jewell. If you like this video, leave comments below. Any questions about what shoes you like, what shoes you don't like. If you've run in the Beacon, leave a comment below. It sure helps anybody else that is watching this video. If they see comments about your experience with the Beacon, it could be more important than my comments on the Beacon. So please leave those comments on. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great run today.